Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new vid of Fox Reacts. Today we're checking out from Game Theory a brand new Minecraft vid, The Secrets of the Undead Indo Dragon. Let's see what MatPat has swirling around in his head right now.
And done.
Oh
man, it took a lot of time, but my Minecraft dream house is finally finished. Come on, let me take you on a tour. Here is my giant Game Theory stained glass window. Here is my shrine to Music Man. And here... Oh no. No.
Oh, man.
Oh, what could I have possibly done to protect myself against something like this?
You could have called Geico, our sponsor for today's episode.
Wait,
in just 15 minutes, I was able to get a quote on my home insurance. In fact, I managed to save 15%, so I still have some diamonds to spare.
Thanks, Tom. By the way, what are you doing here?
Oh, just popping in to ask whether you have ever built a car in Minecraft.
Yeah, it's a lime green, like the Game Theory logo. Why?
Oh, well,
Okay. Oh no!
No, not my car. Get off. Get out of here, you weird bull thing.
Man.
Well, on the bright side, Geico makes bundling your home and car insurance easy. In fact, you save more when you bundle.
Man, just when you thought this day couldn't get any worse.
Hey, Matt, you might want to look out.
Sorry, what'd you say, Tom?
Oh, rabbits everywhere. This isn't good. Does Geico do health insurance?
Hey, does Geico do life insurance too?
Looking at you.
Oh my god, I just asked.
You're gonna need something a little different.
I thought I did this. Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna go call Geico.
Yeah, you do that.
I literally made the same joke right before them.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that hit bedrock bottom years ago. Today, we continue to cobble together the deep lore of Minecraft, either by unearthing what's been hiding there under the surface the whole time, or, doing what we do best, creating it out of thin air so the developers can say, oh yeah, that's what we planned all along. Now, I'm gonna level with you. Initially, I planned for this episode to be about some of the new stuff introduced as part of the latest Caves and Cliffs update part 2, but now that it's out, I don't know, there's just not a lot here for me to sink my teeth into. Don't get me wrong, the new biomes and landscape changes are really cool, but we all know what gets my theory engine running. Lore! High-octane lore that's injected straight into my thinky brain. And alas, it looks like a lot of that's being saved for the Wild update, including things like ancient underground cities, which totally called, by the way. So rather than look into the future, I decided to instead take a look at the unanswered mysteries from Minecraft's past. Mysteries that have been around for a while, but never truly solved. And of them, there was one that really grabbed my attention, the Phantoms. In case you're not familiar, these creatures are incredibly special within the history of Minecraft.
These things are actually brand new. They've only introduced to the game like maybe in 2 or 3 updates ago. And they appeal if you stay awake for 3 Minecraft days. So if you don't sleep for 3 Minecraft days, these things start, killing.
They're only in the game because they won the first ever public vote for a new mob back at Minecon Earth in 2017, beating out the Barnacle, no contest there, and the Great Hunger. Cool name, but lame design. Anyway, because this was such a big deal in the Minecraft community, they had to make the Phantoms stand out from the normal mobs. And boy, they did not disappoint. These horrifying monsters only show up if you don't sleep. In fact, the longer you don't sleep, the more show up. No other mob in the game has this kind of spawning behavior. It's totally unique to the Phantom, which is awesome, but also, why? Why would we have voted for this? These things make the game so much harder, especially in the early game if you can't find any darn sheep to make a bed. But this spawn behavior got me thinking, what actually are these things? We do have some flying creatures in the overworld, bats and birds mainly, but they're tiny in comparison to this thing. And take a look at their design. They're like the stuff of nightmares, a bony, decaying body accompanied by ear-piercing screeches. In fact, the whole nightmare thing might not be all that far off. As I started my research into the Phantoms, I found that there was a general consensus amongst the Minecraft community that the Phantoms aren't real. That might sound like the crazy rantings of a sleep-deprived theorist, but honestly, that's the point. As I've already mentioned, Phantoms only appear when the player hasn't slept for a few days. 3 days to be precise, which is strange considering most other mobs are tied to light levels. So what if the reason they can't spawn like normal mobs is because they are actually hallucinations? That is the predominant theory online. So today, I aim to answer the question once and for all. Are phantoms just the product of a sleep-deprived mind? Or are they something else? Something grander? Well, friends, I'm here today to tell you that I've cracked it. I know what the phantoms are, and you're never gonna guess how they fit in. First, let's talk about every YouTuber's favorite hobby.
I'm guessing they have something to do with the Ender Dragon being undead. Like maybe each phantom is killed Ender Dragon or something. I don't know.
Sleep deprivation. As humans, we need sleep. It allows our brains time to recharge and our bodies time to recover from working all day. So when we stay up and deprive ourselves of that much needed recharge, we start to experience some pretty nasty side effects. Not sleeping for 24 hours can make you irritable, decrease hand-eye coordination, and can lead to memory deficits. 2 days without sleep can start to negatively impact your immune system, but it's 3 days, 72 hours without sleep where the crazy stuff starts to happen. It's here that you actually start to hallucinate, to see things that aren't really there. So this idea that phantoms only appear after 3 days without sleep actually reflects the real-life science of sleep deprivation. Not only that, but after 3 days of no sleep, your body can start to harm itself, causing inflammation in muscles and joints, which is gonna hurt, matching the pain that you're feeling when the phantom attacks. Finally, lack of sleep can lead to death. If you're awake for long enough, your brain can stop functioning properly.
And we're back.
Which can lead to organ failure and, in rare cases, death. Just like what happens when we get swarmed by phantoms after many nights of no sleep. Also, just worth mentioning that the word phantom literally means a figment of the imagination. So, you know, some really strong evidence to support the whole their hallucination theory. I can absolutely see why this explanation has existed for so long in the Minecraft community. And yet, because of course you knew I'd have something else to say, there's one tiny problem with the hallucination theory. Phantoms drop items, physical items called phantom membranes, which are described as leathery skins obtained from killing phantoms. You can pick up this item. Heck, cats can pick up this item. Sounds pretty real to me. Plus, you can use this item to fix your elytra. If this item was imaginary, you'd believe you'd fixed your elytra and then you'd go out for another flight only to fall to your very real death. But that's not what happens here. The elytra do actually get fixed. If you've tamed a wolf, they'll attack the phantoms, just like they do other mobs in the game like zombies or skeletons. If phantoms were just hallucinations, your dog wouldn't be able to take them out. And lastly, you can capture these things. You can name tag them and you can keep them in a makeshift cage. It's a bit of a challenge, but if you do manage to pin one down and then go to sleep, the phantom is still gonna be there when you wake up. They haven't despawned. So again, they just simply aren't hallucinations. So for this mini Morty, I'm gonna have to call the hallucination fan theory busted. Yay! I just debunked a common internet belief. Gonna be real popular after that one. But while I've just shot holes into a theory, I've yet to propose one of my own. So what, in my mind, is a phantom? Let's first look at the phantom's other qualities, namely the fact that it's considered to be an undead mob. The undead mob category is mainly filled with very obviously undead enemies, basically all the variations of zombies and skeletons, zombie villagers, zombie horses, zombie piglins, skeleton horses, things like that. There's also stuff like drowned and husks. All of them are representations of living things that exist elsewhere in the world. Villagers, piglins, horses, hoglins, players, ancient builders, like we've talked about in previous theories. But the phantom is different. Once again, it's unique as the only undead mob to not have a living counterpart. Or does it? Loyal theorists, I propose to you that the phantoms are actually the undead versions of Ender Dragons. See, I mentioned something earlier that I wasn't able to shake. The phantom membrane. This unique item is incredibly important because it's the only one in the game that can be used to fix your elytra. Before the introduction of the phantom in 1.13, you could repair your elytra using regular old leather, but as soon as phantoms were introduced, phantom membranes became your only viable option, which tells us that there's a very specific connection between these two items. Repairing items in Minecraft works on a like-for-like basis. If you want to repair your diamond armor, you have to use diamonds. Same for your tools. So the fact that phantom membranes can repair elytra would imply that they are in fact one and the same. Now, in one of our previous episodes, we actually discussed the creation of the elytra and determined that they were created from the wings of Ender Dragons. That's why they can only be found in the end ships, and why, unlike practically everything else in the game, we're unable to craft them. After defeating Gene the Ender Dragon, the final living dragon, there simply isn't enough material in the world to create a new set of elytra. So if elytra come from dragons and phantom membrane repair elytra, then phantoms must be dragons. But phantoms look nothing like Ender Dragons. I hear you saying, if you compare the two side by sides, there isn't a whole lot connecting the two. However, if you look look at the initial design process that went into making the Phantoms, you start to find a few more connections. Here's the original design that was shared during the mob vote of 2017. The design originally included a flapping mouth, which was removed because the designers felt it made it look too much like a Muppet, which, yeah, I can definitely see that. The only other mob to have itself a flapping mouth, the Ender Dragon. Now, that might have been a bit of a stretch, but what's not a stretch is that for the longest time, the Phantom was meant to have a black color scheme. Originally, it was just black, but if you take a look at the official toy collection for Update Aquatic, when the Phantoms were first introduced, what do you notice about the Phantom? It had a black design with gray detailing, just like the coloring of the Ender Dragon. And just like that, we suddenly begin to see a lot more similarities, especially with the top edge of the wings and the tail details. Since then the coloring has changed and the toy collection has been brought in line with the coloring in the game, but this shows us that up until quite late in the development, the design was made to reflect the Ender Dragon. Even elements of the Phantom's game design are reflective of the Ender Dragon, specifically the way it attacks. It flies around in circles and then swoops down to attack, much like one of the techniques employed by the Ender Dragon during your fight. Sure, this might sound like a weak connection, but I'm not the one making it. This element of the Phantom's mechanics is specifically called out in the Minecraft Dungeons wiki. Quote, the attack and flying behavior of Phantoms in Dungeons is similar to various species of hawks in reality instead of the original game, which use the Ender Dragon's behavior. All of this points to these two creatures being linked, but I get it, there will be skepticism around this. After all, the Phantoms are still missing some key features of Ender Dragons. Arms, legs, long necks, and, you know, they're tiny by comparison. My best guess is that they're probably meant to represent, like, dragon babies. But the truth is, I don't have any more physical evidence to give you that would explain those things. But I think I can offer some hypotheses, some game hypotheses, as to why everything works the way it does. First, the membranes. You would think that if we collected enough Phantom membranes, we'd actually be able to make a new Elytra, but we just can't. Well, I'm assuming that's because the Phantom's skin is decaying and damaged. It's undead, so it's weaker. It's good enough to patch a wing, but it wouldn't be strong enough to actually make a full set like the ancient builders did from fully formed dragons. How then do you explain the whole 3 days thing? Well, we actually get the answer from Jeb himself. Quote, this manta ray-like monster is a flying creature that spawns at high altitudes. It's attracted to insomnia and will find players who haven't slept for many days. It's attracted to insomnia. It's not created by insomnia, which implies that it does already exist in the world. So what then is going on here? Well, not sleeping for long stretches of time can increase your heart rate and body temperature. Plenty of creatures in the animal kingdom rely on those things to sense prey. Barn owls can hear a mouse's heartbeat from over 50 feet away. But specifically, I want to call out pit vipers and boids, two snake varieties that use a natural form of infrared thermal vision to hunt. They have these cavities located on each side of their head called pit organs, which allow them to detect the heat difference between their prey and the environment, down to the level of millikelvin. So if you weren't sleeping and your temperature began to rise as a result, suddenly the nocturnal Phantom is able to distinguish you from everything else and can swoop in for the kill. As far as how Phantoms fit into the overall narrative of this world that we've slowly been crafting theory by theory, I think it all comes back to the Illagers. For those of you who don't know, the Illagers are a group of exiled villagers that live in the woodland mansions. Now, after looking at the behavior of these mobs, I proposed a couple theories back in 2020 that suggested these guys were doing experiments to bring the dead back to life. In one of those theories, I described the Illagers as a cargo cult, a society that was once visited by a strange, highly advanced group of people, in this case, the ancient builders. And when those ancient builders disappeared, they didn't understand why, nor did they understand the technology and tools that they left behind. These visiting strangers become like gods to the indigenous people, and so the cults will often recreate items and structures they saw used by the visiting groups, but with less sophisticated technology. This is why Illagers have beds, maps, and end portals inside of their woodland mansions that are made of wool. They understand the visuals of these items, but not the purpose of them, or how to actually craft them. And it's the end portal which is actually the focus for us today. See, back in that other theory, I said that in order for the Illagers to create a fake version of an end portal, they would have had to have seen an end portal. And they knew it was significant because this is where the ancient race of builders appeared from. If this is true and the ancient builders were using some form of an end portal, then chances are the Illagers would have heard stories of the Ender Dragons, these monsters that the ancient builders were actively hunting to the point of extinction. They'd also be aware of the Elytra that the builders crafted out of the dragon wings. So when the ancient builders suddenly disappeared, the Illagers began to recreate things that they'd seen and heard about in order to try and get them to come back. They tried to create woolen portals to go looking for them, but to no avail, so they had to turn to more extreme measures. They'd already been experimenting on villagers and had been trying to recreate the ancient builders themselves only to produce zombies. So why not try to recreate the one thing that they knew the ancient builders had been actively hunting, the Ender Dragon, hoping that doing so would bring the ancient builders back to protect them. But there was a problem. They had never seen an Ender Dragon. All they had were stories that they'd been told, maybe some scraps of dragon and elytra that the ancient builders had left behind. But that didn't stop them. They sought to make something out of that scaly, leathery material, and with the elytra being small in size, they could very well have believed that maybe the ender dragon wasn't really that big. They created something that to them looked like the creatures of legend, but they needed one more thing, something to bring it all to life. So using the evoker's powers over the spirit realm, the ones they used to summon the Vex, they managed to pull the vengeful spirits of the fallen ender dragons and put them into these new bodies. This is why phantom membranes can't make elytra. The skins of the phantoms are an imperfect copy of the original, now rotting with decay thanks to the inorganic nature of their birth. Phantom is another word for ghost, after all. The spirit of the dragons, now a shadow of their former selves, roaming the night sky, hunting down the descendants of the ancient race that wiped out their species, screaming at us with the same dying scream that we hear when we kill the last ever ender dragon.
Well,
but hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And thank you again to Geico for...
Well, that's where we're going to leave off today's video. Oh, in all honesty, I see this theory as being plausible. It's actually very nice. And very well put together, Matt. So, anyway, remember to like, comment, subscribe for more. Excuse me. Down in the description will be a link to the original video, so remember to support the original creator and all they do, and I'll see all of you folks in the next video. Have a good one.